We've got an awful lot to get to. Let me straight away introduce you to our first speaker, the Right Honourable Dr. Vince Cable MP, Secretary of State for Business, Innovation and Skills. He obviously needs a big business card or small print, I don't know which, who is going to explain the importance of the retail, food and drink sectors here in the UK. Ladies and gentlemen, Vince Cable.
Well, thank you, and can I sort of extend a very warm welcome to everyone who's here. It's an extremely distinguished as well as big audience, and we're absolutely delighted about that. I mean, we see in the government these events as being an excellent way to showcase what we do well in Britain, and we do a lot of things very well. And many of these things are centred in the two overlapping sectors that we've got represented here today. I hadn't realised till I briefed myself for this this morning that the British retail sector, that's about $300 billion worth of sales, is actually the third largest in the world. And that in itself is a massive spur to productivity and growth in our economy. It hires about 10% of our labour force, and something else I picked up recently, when we worry about young people who can't find jobs, about 40% of all employment of teenagers is in the retail sector. So at one end, it is a major source of job creation, and it's also a major driver of productivity. Our supermarkets are probably some of the most efficient, well-organised units in the economy. And it's also a major source of exports. We hadn't probably traditionally thought of retail as an export industry, but increasingly British companies invest and operate overseas. I've recently been in trade missions to Turkey and Korea, amongst others, where British companies are very prominent in multi-brand retailing in those countries, and others in the luxury brand sector. So for all those reasons, the retail sector is extremely important to us. And the same is true of food and drink manufacturing. Yes, as Michael just said a few minutes ago, this is our largest manufacturing sector, employs roughly 400,000 people. We don't think of food and drink in quite the same way as, say, aerospace and life sciences as being at the cutting edge of productivity and high technology. But anybody who's ever been around an advanced bottling plant or packing company will know that process engineering and innovation are absolutely at the centre of that industry's life. Something of the order of 6,000 new products are introduced by the food and manufacturing industry every year. It's a major source of innovation. That R&D actually leads to things which are very important. And again, this is a very important export industry for the UK, and some of our companies are amongst the leading companies active internationally. And I'm pleased to say that one of our leading companies, Diageo, through Paul Walsh, has produced, we've announced this morning, the first business ambassador that we have appointed in this sector, who will lead for the country in our international trade and investment work. Now, much of the really interesting activity in your industries doesn't come from manufacturing or services narrowly defined, but in those kind of overlapping areas that are produced by the revolution that's taking place in information technology. I was surprised to be told recently, but pleasantly surprised, that Britain is actually the leading country in the world in the development of e-commerce. Electronically based, internet-based retailing. It's something of the order of £378 per head of internet shopping in this country, as against £220 a head in the United States on an equivalent measure. And I think the only country which is even remotely comparable is Sweden in Europe. So that's an area where we currently lead, and despite the other difficulties in the economy, e-retailing, electronic retailing, is growing at about 13% a year at the present stage. This is very, very rapid growth indeed. And it's also helping us in export markets, because as a digital single market opens up in the European area, Britain's exports, internet-based shopping, is actually larger than the whole of the rest of Europe put together. So we're starting from a very, very strong base, something we want to build on. Now, I am aware, and this is what you'll be discussing, I'm sure, through the day, that this is a sector, or sectors, that do face some very serious challenges in the UK, and not just in the UK, in many developed countries. We currently have a period of weak demand. Hopefully will not last longer, but that's the position we are after the very severe financial heart attack that our system experienced several years ago. Growth is weak, and this affects retail demand, and that in turn brings pressure on companies to consolidate, constantly find new improvements to maintain profitability. It's a difficult business environment in which to operate. And then again, there are these powerful social currents which are beginning to impinge on the industry in a major way, the growing preoccupation with health and well-being, and food retailers and manufacturers operating in an environment in which people are being urged or feel the need to consume less rather than more, and in which the industry is being held responsible for public health. It's a very major challenge. And another one, again, as Michael mentioned, is the whole sustainability agenda. My department in government is responsible, among other things, for the Green Investment Bank, co-financing private investment in environmentally important activities. And our first major undertaking was in waste management. And the waste industry is becoming an extremely important one, and the retail sector and the food and drink industry in general has to be geared towards an understanding of sustainability, and they are. And finally, much of the growth in the world is going to take place in the big emerging markets. We're seeing the center of gravity of the world economy shifting to the big countries of Asia, but also increasingly Africa. That has important implications for the way the sector operates. In many developing countries, we've seen the debate playing out, which has been operated in a particularly explicit and interesting way in India, where the opening up of multi-brand retailing poses a very real conflict, because on the one hand, these countries quite understandably want more efficiency, reducing the waste in the distribution system, all the best practices of supermarkets. On the other hand, the retail sector absorbs vast numbers of people and maintains employment. And trying to manage the relationship between those two objectives is a difficult one. But finally, perhaps just return to this country and what we're trying to do. I hope that in the course of today, you will develop networking. I hope some of you, particularly who have come from companies from overseas, will see the attractions of investing in the UK. We have a very good business environment here. One of the things we're very proud of is that we do regard this country as open for business. We don't discriminate. We don't have any economic nationalism. Foreign companies are willing to invest here. Many have done so, many very successfully. And that's an environment that we are determined to maintain. So again, thank you for participating. I hope you enjoyed today.